potentially.
Yeah, it's like, if you're gonna do this, don't, like, you're on video, homie. You're giving out your phone number. If you're gonna do this, at least, do it in a dark parking lot or something where no one's videotaping you, or it's not gonna be played back later. You very clearly giving out your phone number to insurrectionists.
So he's garbage for supporting these insurrectionists. He's also just garbage at being an insurrectionist. You're just so fumbling and obvious. Be a slick, cool guy while trying to be a slick, cool guy. Anyway, Bridget, that's a very good garbage person. High marks for your first one ever. And now we turn to my garbage person of the week is going to be two, actually, but it's the interaction between them, really. It's Tucker Carlson, but I'm gonna give it to Victor Davis Hanson of the Hoover Institution, because he was on Tucker Carlson last night and they had one of the worst interactions about childbirth and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Here they are.
It's quickly, do you find it interesting that they are so offended by fertility and nature and the idea that people reproduce and that's okay? That men and women come together and create new life. Like, the whole thing is repulsive to them. Why is that?
Well, I think it's because it started with the feminist movement, that they felt that impaired a woman's future. But I think it also reflects reality, Tucker, that the age when people are getting married, having children, buying a home, buying a house has gone from mid-20s to mid-30s. And our crisis right now is that we're not reproducing ourselves. We're about 1.8 rather than 2.1 or 2. And we're suffering from what? Prolonged adolescence. These children, they have adult bodies, but they have the minds of children. They don't want to grow up. AOC is a good example of a person who's suffering from prolonged adolescence, and she said she doesn't want to have children because of climate change. So it's a phenomenon. I don't know if it's because of $1.7 trillion in student debt or the economy, but they just don't want to take off their training wheels and go out and experience life and its adventures and dangers.
Yeah, it's sad. Even sad for Sandy Cortez. Kind of missing the best part, the fun part, I think.
It is.
I'm gonna miss a couple of the terrible things about that because there are so many. His continued insistence on calling her Sandy Cortez, like a child there. So much of that. First of all, just factually, you gotta love, why don't they wanna have kids? I mean, some of them say it's because of the $1.7 trillion in student loan debt and the economy, but why don't they just take off the training wheels? That's not how that metaphor works at all. That's like saying, well, the road to be on your bike on is only 2 inches wide and you fall over into magma and sharks with lasers on their heads. But I don't know, why don't they take off the training wheels? No, in that case, I want training wheels because it's really dangerous. You just made my case, you bozo. Those are all great reasons why people would be less inclined to have kids. Notably, they're not the reasons AOC has said she's worried about having kids. They are also lying about that. She has said that she's worried about what world she would be bringing her kids into when it comes to climate change. She didn't say, I'm not having kids because of that. And for them to say that, to have that interaction, that obviously planned interaction, just not that long after, in the wake of the Capitol attack, she did an Instagram live where she told Katie Porter that she was scared to die, that she would die on that day before being able to have kids. That was one of the things that she feared would stop her from having kids. Not, she's dumb and childish about climate change or whatever. That was one of the most condescending couple of minutes of video that I've seen in a very long time, Bridget.
Yeah, it's pretty disgusting. And I hate the way they just openly mock her very genuine pain. Like, she went through something pretty traumatic, and I hate to see them just openly mocking her for speaking up about it. I think it really sends a terrible message, and these people are both garbage.
Yeah, 100%. There's so much more about that that's terrible, and we unfortunately don't have time. Just disgusting. And like, yeah, it's the left that's really uncomfortable and fears sex and childbirth. That's definitely what it is. You guys want to outlaw literally everything fun, but whatever. That's my garbage person, that dude. Look up his history. He said some fun things in the past. Anyway, what about you? What about the community garbage person of the week? Well, 32,000 of you voted this week, and here are the top 5 with a triple tie at numbers 5 through 3, I guess. At 6% of the vote, you have Magneto Woman for claiming vaccines cause magnetization. Really? She only got number 5? Also, number 5 at 6%, Ben Shapiro for teaching racial slur etiquette. And then also at number 6, Lauren Boebert for calling Representative Omar an honorary member of Hamas. That was a fun one. Well, that leaves at number 2 with 27% of the vote, US billionaires for not paying anything in federal taxes. Hey, fact check. It's not that they don't pay anything, they pay 0.1%. Anyway, but number 1 with 55% of the vote, an overwhelming bit of political garbage, Joe Manchin for blocking progress in the name of bipartisanship. Thank you to all of you who voted this week. Thank you for taking part. Great garbage person there. Bridget, thank you so much for joining us. Where can people see more of your work?
You can follow me on Instagram at Bridget Marie in DC or on Twitter at Bridget Marie. And you can check out my podcast, There Are No Girls on the Internet, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast on.
Thank you so much. And she'll also be joining us on the first hour of the Young Turks The Power panel later today. So definitely stay tuned for that. Also, stay tuned for Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Richey, which is coming up right after this. You can head to youtube.com/indisputable TYT to watch it and to subscribe. His show is awesome. His guests have been awesome. You don't want to miss it. Thank you everybody for watching us throughout this week. We had a few technical hurdles, but we appreciate you sticking with us. Until next time, stay safe out there, stay sane out there, and I'll see you soon.
Oh snap, it's Friday. And you know we got a show for you. So I have some breaking news, well, really an exclusive. And we're gonna get into that exclusive in just a moment. On the show today, we will be joined by Wosny Lambre of Wosnia on Twitch, host of Wosnia. We got the big homie here today, staff writer for The Athletic. Also, my debate guest, remember the bullpen comes up, final block of the show. You have to stick and stay for that. The bullpen today, my debate challenger will be Michael Oristian, who is a Republican congressional candidate, California 53rd District. Should be quite interesting. This fella says really, really insane stuff. I will absolutely challenge him on the record and challenge him on his rhetoric as it relates to policy, President Trump, vaccines, and a few other things. But before we get to that, we have an exclusive happening in a metro Atlanta county, Gwinnett County. Solicitor General Brian Whiteside says that a school board meeting went off the rails according to constituents in his community. Brian Whiteside, well-respected elected prosecutor, also went on record not too long ago and said that he would not be prosecuting individuals who gave water to people while standing in a Georgia line. If you remember, Senate Bill 202 makes it illegal to hand someone water in a line. It makes it a misdemeanor. Well, he's the elected prosecutor. He said, if you are not breaking a partisan rule and just handing someone water, we are not going to prosecute you in this office. Well, there's something else happening in his county that must be exposed. I have on Indisputable Brian Whiteside, the elected Solicitor General of Gwinnett County, Georgia. Brian, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, doctor.
Also, we have Anne LaFavor. Anne is a victim of a crime. We're going to get into that and why no one has been prosecuted. We've been talking about what's been happening around critical race theory and white individuals in particular counties getting really upset at school board meetings and even outside of school board meetings and creating a significant argument around the discussion of curriculum. Well, Gwinnett County now has significant black leadership in their school board. And it seems as if, based on the reports that I've received and information that we've been able to gather on Indisputable, that a certain segment of the community in Gwinnett County, they are adversarial to these new board members and adversarial to their leadership. But before we get to Ann, let me go to the elected prosecutor. Mr. Prosecutor, if you would, give us some background as to what happened on May 17th and what residents of your county have come to your office and said.
Well, what occurred, there was a number of disturbances during the school board meeting where basically there was a rule and it was in writing at the door, I believe, that stated people needed to wear a mask. People then entered the building and began to take their mask off. The chairman, Everton Blair, asked that people not do that and keep the mask on. At that point, a great deal of people started to take the mask off. The majority of these people were white.
Let me make a clarity point here. Everton Blair is an African-American male who's chairman of this board, correct?
Yes, sir. The first African-American male ever elected to the school board. He is the chairman. We have two other people, Ms. Johnson, Dr. Johnson, Ms. Watkins. They are also African-Americans and they are on the school board also. And in regard to that, there has been a great deal of conflict. There has never been this type of conflict or possibility of violence. I've been here approximately 28 years. I started off as a deputy sheriff in Gwinnett County and then got my law degree by working 2 or 3 jobs. During that point, there's never been a disturbance upon the minorities taking the board. Have been constant disturbances, basically disorderly, what I would think would be disorderly conduct. And during this time period, the masks rule was tried to be put back in effect by the chairman. They would not comply. There were people who stood up and said, stand your ground. They can't make us do this. At that point, he asked the people to leave. He asked the citizens, everyone, to leave the room. They did not leave the room. There was no enforcement whatsoever by the law enforcement school police at that time. Although the chairman gave a direct order to tell them to leave, they did not. At that point, people had to retreat. Some of the board members retreated to another room and regrouped. At that point, in my opinion, things got disorderly from what has been reported to me. Ms. LaFavor basically contacted me. She stated that she was almost assaulted by someone, that citizens had to hold that person back, allegedly that there was an attack. We have to use the word alleged. And allegedly there was a law enforcement officer there, but did not make an arrest, did not make a report whatsoever. Ms. LaFavor basically is a respected person in our community, well known on many boards, many chambers. I find her to be truthful. At this point, she had spoken to me on the phone. I told her to file a report with that police department, the school police department. It should be noted that there's been other incidents at these meetings that seem to be very disruptive. My opinion is that at any time someone could be harmed, there's a possibility of weapons being introduced, which would be against the law. We would basically recommend prosecution if they did that. What's disturbing is that there's been no independent report made of this event. We had to have a black female citizen reach out to me as an elected official and ask what to do, then try to make a report. It's also interesting that the person that tried to fight her was white. And what happens in our community, we have the most diverse community in America. You have someone who feels that they're not being treated equally. This is the problem in America today. They ask, why is law enforcement doing something to me, not for me? So at this point, number one, I've asked her to put reports in. And there's been other incidents of disruption before at the school board, yet there's no metal detectors in front of the doors. There's no x-ray machines, and we have disruption and disorderly conduct alleged. So a preventive measure would be for the safety of all to have these type of devices to stop the presence of weapons. And the whole point about that is, the question comes to be, why wasn't there a report made when we have a citizen say they were under attack? And witnesses are present, and I believe everything is recorded there, sir.
Yeah, my team right now, we're working on getting that recording. We should have that recording before the end of the show, but if not, I will make sure that recording is available, that video is available for those who are watching. So let me get this right. You have an African-American chairman of the board, the first African-American ever elected to the school board of Gwinnett County. This African-American male gives out a directive. He says, listen, for my meetings, he's the chairman, he gets to call these meetings. He said, for my meetings, you will have to wear a mask. Parents show up, they decide to universally take off their mask, primarily white parents, and they start chanting, stand your ground, which is a way to kill somebody and claim self-defense, by the way. So they start chanting, stand your ground, and then it gets so volatile that the school board members have to retreat and the crowd is dismissed. Not before there's threat and aggression. Nobody is arrested, even though the police were present. Nobody is arrested, and to this day, we have not heard of any arrest from the situation. Now, let's go to Ann. Ann, you're alleged to be a victim. What happened to you, Ann?
Okay, I sent out April 30th notification to the school system and for them to copy the school board members that for the last 2 months, I wasn't able to attend the school board meetings because it wasn't handicap accessible. And I also stated on April 30th that there was all over the internet and everyone knew that there was going to be a major protest of folks not wearing masks. So I sent them an email bringing up all of that. They accommodated me for both. They had the elevator finally accessible again, so I was able to get up on the floor. And they had a note on the door that says, it was a mandate that you must wear a mask and you could not enter without one. So I come up the hallway and I'm watching and I see a woman named Lori McLean. She walks right in past the SROs, which is the school system police force. Nothing said. So then I'm getting concerned because I have a low immune system. So then this white gentleman says to the SRO, I don't want to get arrested. So if I don't put on a mask, I'll just leave, but I'm not going to wear a mask. So will I get arrested? The SRO told him, we're not enforcing it. Now, I know because I sat down right there by them to listen. So when I got in and I sat down and I started seeing people wanting to sit by me with masks, I started taking pictures because I had put the school on notice that if they exposed me, I would file an ADA complaint. Now, our chair for the school board announced you must wear a mask or leave. So they wouldn't wear a mask, and then I was in fact accosted when I was in the aisles trying to get a picture of all these folks that weren't masked.
Ms. Ann, let me ask you specifically, because we only have a few minutes. What specifically happened to you? Did someone physically touch you? Did someone threaten to harm you?
She ran up on me saying that I wasn't gonna harass the folks I was taking pictures of. They held her back. The SRO was standing there, did nothing. And finally, he pulled her back, but no report was done. He didn't contact me. I had to file the complaint.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Obviously, that is disorderly conduct.
SRO.
Mr. Solicitor, say that again. I can't hear you, sir. Say that again.
Yes, SRO stands for School Resource Officer. They're certified police officers.
Right, and what's ironic about this situation also is the fact that the chairman of the board, remember these police officers actually work for the board. These are school police officers.
Yes,
they
sir.
work for the board of directors for the school system. And the chairman of the board has given out a decree. He happens to be the first black ever elected to the board. And they say very proudly and proclaim it publicly, they're not going to enforce their boss's decree. And when you went to file the police report with this school system police, did they give you any adverse reaction to your filing?
The first thing he said was I in fear? And of course I'm in fear. Now, granted, I stood my ground, but these folks had a Klan type mentality. They showed Klan type tendencies. I mean, this girl wanted to fight. And I'm number one in elder and I'm disabled, but that didn't matter to her. So yeah, I was threatened, I was lunged at. The officer's name is Lieutenant Hamilton. Then he says to me, well, are you willing to prosecute? Are you willing to go to court? I told him, if I called you to file the complaint, of course I'm gonna follow it through. And then I asked him, am I gonna be safe this month? And he's saying, sure. I said, well, you promised me that in May, and I wasn't safe.
Ms. Ann, let me go to the solicitor. You're the elected prosecutor. You are in charge of all of these misdemeanor offenses in Gwinnett County.
Yes.
If this comes before you, are you going to prosecute the case?
Yes, I would prosecute the case if there's enough evidence to go forward, and I'll make the recommendation that is appropriate to the crime. But the point about this is that, number one, there need to be preventive measures this week and have a deterrent effect. You can't empower people by not punishing them in these type of events, and you can't empower them by not stopping the attack and then arresting that person.
When is the next meeting?
It's June 17th. That's this Thursday, this upcoming Thursday.
So the next meeting is coming up. As you know, there have been absolutely no penalty for what individuals did at this meeting, and there are no preventative measures being taken place so far. It sounds kind of like a smaller version of January 6th, where we had all of the warnings. Right, the insurrection. We had all the warnings. We knew something what may happen,
that's exactly
and
correct.
They took absolutely no precautions. That sounds very similar.
Well, they knew before this that things could happen, and they didn't take the appropriate measures.
Wow. Listen, we're gonna follow this story on Indisputable. We appreciate you being bold enough to come on air and talk about it. Miss Ann, our thoughts and prayers are with you. To the solicitor, thank you for standing up. Brother, I followed your career for a while. Thank you for standing up for what is right and standing up with the citizens of Gwinnett County. It is rare to have an elected prosecutor come on live air and talk about what's happening to citizens on the other side when cops do not stand up for those who are victimized. We appreciate you both. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
All right, we got more on the other side. Indisputable.
All right, thanks, Ann.
Oh, you're welcome.
You're about to watch some behind the scenes footage of the Young Turks.
Ooh.
Now, these are partial videos. If you want to get all of them, you become a member, go to tyt.com/join, and you'll get all the behind the scenes of me, Anna, John, JR, a little bit reality show like. tyt.com/join and enjoy this.
You know what you're seeing behind me? Jersey, hold. Watch me flip this camera. However I flip it. Do I flip it like this? No, I just took a picture. I'm bitsing right now.
What?
Behind the scenes.
Oh, okay. For members? I don't have my face on.
She doesn't have her face on, folks. Oh, that's JR's ass right there.
You can't take 5 minutes off, can you?
No, I can't, Johnny Pie. I said it was live stream, but I was lying. It's not a live stream. It's just for members. Bitsy, this is my cat. You know what his name is? Kiki Cat.
Animals are innocent.
Control room and the insanity is obviously there.
Right now, as you can see, I'm directing or tech directing.
I'm so happy to be here.
This is what like a Labor Day beard looks like for Jank. Man, you're a Young Turks viewer if you recognize me like this.
Oh, thank you. You are the one person in my life I would love to meet.
What's going on, guys? This is a Bitsy or a BTS or behind the scenes with Hassan Piker, aka Woke Bay.
Oh, hi, I didn't see you there.
I have finished my show, The Damage Report, and now I get into a really awkward time of the day.
When I'm sitting, the control room is right there. So I can see Bart.
And this is the Pittsburgh office, by the way. Referred to often as the boiler room.
You see how it's ripped? Is it super unprofessional to wear that at a business meeting? Or am I like cool rebel?
I just finished doing the power panel and I'm fired up.
What do you do for TYT?
Not a whole lot.
If you're frantically tweeting at us that something's broken, thank you, because I'm fixing it.
And thank you for being a TYT member.
Super last thing,
Because there's always got to be a super last thing.
oh, that was disastrous.
This has been behind the scenes, behind the scenes.
All right, welcome to Dr. Rashad Richey, Indisputable. This is going to be quite interesting. I don't know if you can handle this much truth on any day of the week. The unrest inside of the black community and communities that support them. It's because these cops are not held accountable. You have a family calling 911, and that family is expecting help, not expecting their loved one to be killed by the very people they pay to protect and serve them. Did you ever notice a cop that you work with call any black person the N-word or target people because they were black? Nope. But we disagree that somehow police officers are not also subject to the same systemic biases and racism as any other level of law enforcement.
It sounds like for everybody's need who wants to crucify the cops without looking at it.
No, crucify bad cops, brother.
Of
bad
course,
cops.
we don't need the government to step into our lives mandating that we should be wearing a mask.
You think you putting on a mask, Trey, is government intrusion, but you don't think the government telling a woman what she can or cannot do with her body it isn't government intrusion.
Where does life begin?
You want to go there? I can read it to you, brother.
You seem very well prepared. Certainly more.
Of course, why would I not be well prepared? They don't stop, I don't stop. Racism won't stop, I won't stop. Systemic bias won't stop, I won't stop. People still need health care, so I won't stop. People still need criminal justice systems reform throughout this country, so I won't stop, and you won't stop either.
Climate is changing fundamentally, extremely, and non-linearly. It's becoming worse now. It's not when the levees burst that is the problem. It's in the anticipation of that.
So I hope every human being is safe. And by human beings, I do not include multinational corporations, especially the ones that started climate change in the first place.
What we're currently doing right now in cutting emissions is clearly not enough. There will be ramifications to what Trump is doing. I don't want people to suffer, but I feel like there's gonna be a lot of suffering because we have an imbecile as our leader.
What's happening? Welcome back to Indisputable. Okay, so my first guest, the Solicitor of Gwinnett County, Mr. Whiteside, and also Miss Ann, the guest. Very unfortunate, an elderly woman who is disabled. But I'll tell you this, Miss Ann, for some reason, I feel like if this was about 30 years ago, Miss Ann's would have gave somebody them hands. I just feel like that in my heart, okay? Let me go to the chat. We got a lot of viewer comments. Super chat, loser blogger Trump. Chanting in a pandemic is violence by itself, independent of what is chanted. Agreed, especially what they were chanting. Forbezilla super chat says, I get two of my favorite babes together today, Woz and Dr. Rashad. Am I in heaven? Chris Nesbitt says, super chat, love the show, Dr. Richey. I love you back for loving the show. YouTube, stand your ground. Gypsy Mama says, stand your ground. Chant was a threat of violence. It absolutely 100% was a threat of violence. Scooter High, thank you for your comment. 8 Roberts says this is disgusting, and it completely was. Nicole Smith, we have failed miserably, but we don't have to be a failure. I love my country and believe we can. Have to do better. Joga de Rogue, maybe I'm saying that almost correctly. So if a black person would have opened up a can, then he would have been killed or locked up. One or the other, 100% for sure. Agreed, yeah. Could have been my auntie, yeah. Twitch, Snake Anthony 210. Why must we be constantly confronted with injustice in this country? Drew in Georgia writes, COVID has been weaponized by anti-maskers. There have been zero consequences, which has emboldened behavior that puts people's lives at risk. Terry Berriot, at a school board meeting, great example for their children. Yeah, good stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, before we get to Big Woz, let me remind you to always follow the money. If there's a politician, not a public servant, if there's a politician, there's always money somewhere. Here's the difference. A politician engages in transactional leadership. A public servant engages in transformational leadership. People like Bernie Sanders and AOC, those are some examples of transformational leaders. Individuals like corporate Democrats such as Joe Manchin, well, he's a politician, he engages in transactional leadership. Now remember, we talked about the about face of Joe Manchin. I even had US Senator Jon Ossoff on Indisputable earlier this week talking about the fact that Joe Manchin at one time actually supported For the People Act. He did an about face. So all of these Democrats went on air and said, we do not know why he did an about face. Well, AOC came out and said, oh, damn it, I know exactly why he did an about face. Follow the money. Now we have actual proof. We know that Joe Manchin basically took a payoff. Here's the reality of politics in America. Every politician is for sale. That doesn't mean every politician will sell out, but every politician has a for sale sign on them. I would love it if politicians had to do like NASCAR. Let me explain that. You know how NASCAR lets you know who their sponsors are? It's written on the car. So as they're going around the track, You see who pays for them all over the car. I need politicians to wear suits that says Koch brothers, the Chamber of Commerce. That's what we need. At least I know who paid for your funky ass to represent nobody but corporations. Yes, that is your solution, because then the trickery would at least no longer be trickery. It would be honest, transparent, in your face. And if Trumpites still want to support these individuals, or if corporations don't feel ashamed and embarrassed, have at it. Buy your politician, but at least the American people will be well aware of who they actually represent, not the people who voted them in. Do you not find it strange that 79% of West Virginians actually support the For the People Act? However, Manchin does not. Do you not find it ironic that Manchin is the only Senate Democrat who is not actually co-sponsoring the bill? Do you not find it ironic that 10 years of no donation from a particular company, all of a sudden he gets money from this company? And voila, he has changed his entire political ideology as it relates to a major piece of legislation. Now people are getting caught up in the fact that it does increase voter access. That is a good part of the bill, a great part of the bill. But that's not the only reason why these major companies are telling Joe Manchin, no, don't support this bill. It's also because it restricts dark money. It limits corporate influence. It stops some of the bleeding that's happening in this nation as it relates to dollars deciding who represents us rather than the people. To talk more about this, I have the big homie. We got Wosny Lambre, host, Woke Brothers podcast. Wosny on Twitch, TYT, staff writer for The Athletic, my big homie. Thank you for being with me, man.
First of all, it's an honor to be here, and I gotta say, man, producer Brett did not tell me I was coming to church this afternoon, brother. You up here preaching to him, and I appreciate it. Although I regret to correct you, I'm no longer with The Athletic. Although shout to them, I'm at The Ringer now. So I want. Yeah, thank you. Shouts to everybody at The Athletic who I used to work with. Love you guys still. But of course, we had a new opportunity with The Ringer. But I will say this, everything you said about Joe Manchin and the for sale sign is true. There's no other way to describe this besides quid pro quo. What's in it for me? This guy just got a check, and now he's backing out of a bill that he was once the co-sponsor of, right? And nothing's changed about this except for the fact that these guys have made contributions to your campaign. This is just straight up legalized corruption. There's no other way to put it. And what really grinds my gears more than anything, brother Rashad, is that I remember when Bernie Sanders was running for president and people said, well, he's not a real Democrat. He's not a real Democrat because he doesn't put the D before his name, because he called himself independent. What makes Joe Manchin a real Democrat? This is allegedly part of the big party platform, and this guy's going against all his fellow party members. It's ridiculous.
You know, man, I'm reminded of something even under the Obama administration. And see, I bring truth here. That's why we call it indisputable. But under the Obama administration, if you remember, progressive media outlets that are left-leaning, they did not get invited to the White House press parties. They did not get invited to the media meetings or those special White House invites around holidays. But you know who did get invited? Fox News got invited. You know who did get invited? Bill O'Reilly got invited. Those individuals continue to receive invitation from a Democratic president and a Democratic vice president, a Democratic White House, but they did not extend those invitations to progressives who were on their side as far as being on the left, but would also offer critique when they were out of line or out of step with the agenda of progress in America. And I find it very, very sobering what you just said. Joe Manchin is still considered to be a Democrat. Nobody is questioning Joe Manchin like they question our dear brother Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders was so much of a Democrat. He's what the Democratic Party had the potential to be. He was so much of a Democrat that he was not recognizable to those who were not, no matter what they put in front of their name. Progress should have been the calling card of the left from day one, not negotiation, not bipartisanship. I know I get some letters on that, that's fine. That never was the agenda of the left. It should have never been, we just need to get along. So brother, what is your feeling about dark money in politics?
Obviously, it's unacceptable. I don't know how you have a system that's supposed to be part of the will of the people, and yet the very privileged few who have access to these politicians via their vast amounts of wealth get to have a say in a way that's disproportionate to the population of the country, right? If Joe Manchin is gonna talk about this isn't bipartisan enough, well, what does bipartisan mean? If the Republican Party is supposed to be expressing the will of the people, this bill is extremely popular even amongst Republican voters. So what can be more bipartisan than actually expressing the will of the American people?
Yeah, well said. And the proof that is actually connected to a bipartisan group, the fact that West Virginians, 79%, damn near 80% of them actually support the For the People Act. Let me read something. The chamber, who's behind this whole move with Joe Manchin, the chamber, which has launched an expensive lobbying effort against the bill, resumed donations to Manchin's campaign for the first time since 2012. Here's the other part. The bill aims to tackle corporate influence, dark money, foreign attempts to influence American elections, and voter suppression practices in the wake of the 2020 election cycle, which broke campaign spending records. So these rich cats have come in and said, Joe, you are our last hope in making sure we can still buy elections in the United States of America. And that's the real story behind the story. Let me shift gears for a moment. I wish a Karen would. Ladies and gentlemen, we search Karens all across the country because Karens are detrimental to the progress, especially of Black and brown people. But there are all sorts of Karens. I want you to meet Chimera Karen. I guess I'm saying that right. Okay, this is supposed to be some conspiracy theory about have human, have something else. It's stuff that a person like Alex Jones would believe in, okay? This is the weirdest 42 seconds of cable news you will ever see. Here's your Karen for today.
Once upon a time, bad people ruled the earth. And then a miracle happened. They called them hybrids. Your kind.
Yeah, bad idea, people. Human chimeras living among us, it's only science fiction for right now. Yesterday, the Senate passed the Endless Frontier Act, a bill that commits nearly $250 billion to promote emerging technologies so that America can keep pace with Chinese innovation. Back in May, Democrats shot down an important amendment outlawing US participation in research that would create human-animal hybrids, also known as chimeras.
It's just so damn silly. They said we're not going to address that. Now remember, this person is doing a news segment, Woz, and admits the entire pretext to the news segment is completely fiction. It doesn't stop there. Take two on the video.
China's already doing it, announcing in April that an international team successfully grew human monkey embryos and sustained them for 20 days in a lab. The only question is, what will they do next? Currently, the National Institutes of Health has banned U.S. funding for chimeric research. But that ban could very well be lifted. And who's to say that these agencies will play by the rules anyway? Remember, President Obama banned funding for gain-of-function research back in 2014. But New York AD found a way around it. And they laundered, it's the NIAID group, and they laundered hundreds of thousands of dollars to the Wuhan Institute of Virology through a nonprofit group called the Eco Health Alliance. The rest is history. Chimeric research is a Pandora's box, that's obviously from hell, that should not be opened. But the scientific community, spurred on by their own hubris, may very well open it using American taxpayer dollars. And if that happens, the Democrats will have blood on their hands for not joining the GOP and stopping it when they had a chance. Joining me now for reaction, I don't even believe, Lara Logan, here we are, it's the 21st century, we're two very smart women, we have to talk about chimeras and how maybe the government might do it.
No, you don't have to talk about chimeras. You are choosing to talk about chimeras. And Woz, did you notice that she actually said the practice is banned in the United States of America? But in her first segment, she said, why didn't the United States explicitly ban this in the legislature? Because, Karen, it's already banned. Woz.
Oh my goodness. And you hit the nail right on the head, brother. When you said you don't actually have to talk about this, right? We talked about the previous bill that would ban, for all intents and purposes, mostly dark money in politics. You don't want to talk about that on Fox News. You don't want to talk about Joe Biden's infrastructure bill that the Republicans refused to vote on, a bill that would bring millions of well-paying jobs to Americans, both Democrat and Republican, all far and wide from east to west. You don't want to talk about the merits of that bill and what Joe Biden wants to do for the American people as far as bringing them well-paying, sturdy jobs that would grant them dignified employment and not having to go work at places like Walmart or McDonald's where employees don't even want to pay you $15 an hour, right? Like, you don't want to talk about that on Fox News. You'd rather talk about this nonsense.
Yeah, and here's a guy that'd rather talk about nonsense too. Let's roll.
Humans won't be told, and the Congress won't discuss, and there will be no law, but a total void on all the genetic experiments.
Just a few weeks ago, I called a press conference and I brought up the fact that human-animal hybrids is one of the biggest threats to our species. You see humanoids, they're like 80% gorilla, 80% pig, and they're talking? I never told the story on air because it's so fantastical. They had in tanks people with gills, and they were little babies, and they were in there just gulping, clawing at the sides. You see a turtle at the zoo, and it wants out, and you feel for it. They got humanoids crossed with fish and stuff. I mean, we are screwed, people.
Yes, we are screwed because a newscaster has now decided to adopt the narrative of Alex Jones as their actual freaking news story. So, ma'am, you have earned your credentialing as our Karen of the day. Woz.
It's amazing because, I'm reading in the New York Times where they're talking about jobs are having to up the benefits and up the perks for workers. They're talking about how this is a great economy for workers, right? Like, instead of giving people unlivable wages and just horrible working conditions, employers are having to come up with ways to entice people to work, right? Like, that's an amazing thing that people on Fox News should be talking about. Like, yo, look, it's good to go out there and try to find a job today. Instead, we're gonna talk about senators and Alex Jones segments, which, by the way, Rashad, remember, he went to court, it was like a year or two ago, and he said in court, under oath, he said, I don't believe any of this crap.
Yep.
I'm an entertainer. I'm just having fun out there. He actually admitted it and said it. And yet on Fox News, these people peddle these types of conspiracy theories and this type of political dreck. It's hilarious to see.
Yeah, it's quite insane. All right, we got more, man. Y'all remember Jeffrey Toobin? I felt so bad for Jeffrey Toobin when all that situation happened with him. About as bad as I feel for the news anchor that had to interview him recently. Okay, we got more on the other side. It's Friday, it's Indisputable. I got you. We'll be right back.
We are on to something that is going to be amazing, but what we need is your help.
The number one problem is there's too much power in too few hands.
Every single problem that we have can be traced back to dark money.
They take large donors, they serve large donors.
So these handful of gatekeepers try to dictate everything.
Like all of you already know, they don't work for you, they work for their donors. So fire them and hire people who will only work for you that say no corporate back money.
We are going to change the way we elect candidates in this country.
Uncorrupted Democrats. We're gonna fight for the issues and win on policy.
This is incredibly personal. We need free health care for everyone.
We're fighting for $15 minimum wage, single payer health care, debt-free college, and we are gonna get money out of politics once and for all.
I've taken a public pledge not to accept any corporate money.
Because the last thing we're gonna do is go into another presidential election and run a corporatist against a populist candidate.
At some point, the buck needs to stop, and it's gonna stop with us. It's gonna stop with Justice Democrats.
So who are we?
People who do not take corporate PAC money.
We're relying on small donors.
99.9% of our contributions came from people.
You're a Justice Democrat, so you don't take any corporate PAC money.
I'm not influenced by money.
As a Justice Democrat, I made that pledge.
Not a penny. Absolutely no.
I will go to Congress unbossed and unbought.
We try to create a government which works for all of us.
That is what America's about, and that's what a representative democracy should be about.
We are just getting warmed up here.
Vote for uncorrupted Democrats. The fight starts now, it starts today, and it starts with you.
I've been honest with him. Like, yeah, I was upset with you and I shouldn't have done it. But instead I was like, I'm just trying to protect my engagement ring.
Did you know that more than 20% of the world's oxygen comes from the Amazon? Why? Because of trees. I know what you're thinking. Of course! So what do we want to do? We want to plant more trees so we can save the climate. It's quite literal. So that's what leads to our new partner, Plant Your Change. Love it. It's so easy. What they do is you take the credit or debit cards you already have and you plug it into the system. And if you so choose, you get to round up every purchase to the nearest dollar and they plant a tree for you, okay? Now you could also choose if you wanna do it on only certain kinds of purchases or only so often, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, but literally every cent makes a difference here. It's Plant Your Change, and if you wanna know more information, just go to tyt.com/trees. Let's go save the planet together.
Now, top. No. No. No.
Today, a terrible day for the internet, a terrible day for America. The internet as we know it is not going to exist anymore.
A real dark day for information and yet another way that they're bleeding out the democracy.
We're now going to have these gatekeepers of information deciding what we can and can't see, and that's what scares me the most.
Whether you're conservative or progressive or anywhere in the middle, this is the one thing we should all agree to. Protect the internet, because the establishment is coming for it. Don't let them destroy the internet.
Welcome back to Indisputable. Don't forget, if you're watching me on my big homie John's page, TDR, make sure you subscribe to Indisputable TYT on YouTube. Indisputable TYT on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe right now. Go there now. Hit the bell so you can be alerted when I'm live. All right. One day you may wake up and I am no longer there on the TDR page. All right. We won't be there for very long. This is to make sure that you can get an opportunity to see what this show does as well, all right? So make sure you go to the Indisputable TYT page if you like what you get here, okay? Make sure you do that and do that quickly. All right, let me read some of these comments. Bureau comments coming in hot and heavy. Zoolander Establishment Dims says, congratulations on your first week. Dr. Richey, I'm really enjoying your debates. I wish more people in the media would call out nonsense in interviews the way you do. Well, it is coming, all right? We have another debate today. Lil Krabby Dragon says, dark money won't be made illegal as long as politicians get to vote on it. I am loving Dr. Richey and Woz. Love you back. Mark says, love the Karen's coverage. Yeah, we do too. Okay, super chats, YouTube. Keto Boot Forever says, I'm listening at work on my birthday. Happy birthday, by the way. Because I gotta pay bills, but Doc, you make it better. Also, Woz, please say your name with the French accent. Woz, kick it.
Wosny Lambre.
Okay, that never gets old. The Breaker of Walls says, real talk, exclamation point. Thank you. Once again, make sure you do go to the Indisputable TYT page on YouTube. Oh my God, Ganja Cat 420 says, oh my God, these people are freaking nuts. I could have told you that. Drew in Georgia, I read Drew in Georgia, thank you. And DOTMH, Dr. Rashad Richey translation, very well prepared, thanks. I appreciate it, we tried. We have a whole team here. Big ups to the team effort. Woz, all right. Let me say this in just all sincerity. I feel really bad for Toobin, okay? He gets caught with his staff members doing this thing. You know what he was doing. And it's on camera. It's a staff meeting. And he gets fired. He gets let go from CNN. And this is like in the World Series of politics, right? This is in the middle of when his legal analysis and political analysis would have been front and center on CNN. Now, I don't agree with Toobin on everything he says. That's not, no analyst is 100% in agreement with anybody, right? They are opinion concluders at the end of that analysis. But he gets caught up in this scandal. It is detrimental to him and his reputation. So CNN interviewed him, and this was just, it was awkward and odd, and I will let you all decide.
Hi, Jeffrey.
Hello, Allison.
It's been a while.
It has been a while, indeed.
I feel like we should address what's happened in the months since we've seen you, since some of our viewers may not know what has happened. So I guess I'll recap. I'll do the honors.
Help yourself.
Okay. In October, you were on a Zoom call with your colleagues from the New Yorker magazine. Everyone took a break for several minutes, during which time you were caught masturbating on camera. You were subsequently fired from that job after 27 years of working there. And you since then have been on leave from CNN. Do I have all that right?
You got it all right, sad to say.
Okay, so let's start there.
Okay.
To quote Jay Leno, what the hell were you thinking?
Or if he was interviewing with me, I would have asked, who were you thinking about? All right, here's more of it.
Well, obviously, I wasn't thinking very well or very much, and it was something that was inexplicable to me. I think one point, I wouldn't exactly say in my defense, because nothing is really in my defense. I didn't think I was on the call. I didn't think other people could see me.
You thought that you had turned off your camera?
Correct. I thought that I had turned off the Zoom call. Now, that's not a defense. This was deeply moronic and indefensible, but I mean, that is part of the story.
All right, I'm interested. What's the other part of the story?
You know, I have spent the 7 subsequent months, miserable months in my life, I can certainly confess, trying to be a better person. I mean, in therapy, trying to do some public service, working in a food bank, which I certainly am going to continue to do, working on a new book about the Oklahoma City bombing, but I am trying to become the kind of person that people can trust again.
Okay, so first of all, I don't distrust the guy. He got caught doing something in his home, and it was extremely unfortunate how it went down. But let me say this. People look at Toobin and they laugh. A wise man taught me one time, when you see something like that happen to a person that's professional, that shows up for work every day, that's consistent, don't laugh, learn. Because you can get caught up in a similar mistake if you're not careful. So Toobin, I'm cool with Toobin coming back to CNN, but I know that there are masses of individuals who will continue to summarize his entire reality based on that one incident. Woz, what say you?
You know, I was a little bit perturbed at the time that the guy got fired. I don't think this is something you should have to lose your job over, right? Like, you know, obviously it was unfortunate. It shouldn't have happened, but I just don't subscribe to this very puritanical American view that people have to hit the fainting couches because they saw one guy's Johnson. And like, it's just human anatomy. It was unfortunate. He should have been reprimanded. The public ridicule at the time was justified. He paid his penance. Let the guy have a job. Let the guy pay his bills. I don't see anything wrong with that. And I hope that he continues to do good work on CNN. Like, again, like you, I don't agree with everything Jeffrey Toobin has ever said or done as an on-air personality, but I think he's a fairly competent cat. And when you survey the landscape of cable news talking head industry, Jeffrey Toobin is far from, you know, problematic or idiotic or any of those things. I never thought the guy should have lost his job in the first place. But then again, you know, some people say it's easy for me to say that. I didn't have to see his Johnson.
I will say this to the folks that were on that staff call. The videotape never leaked. I mean, obviously the story came out, but they never leaked the video. They obviously figured out a way to keep that under wraps because I'm sure people, you know, when things like this happen, man, people are offered a lot of money to leak a video of something like this, and none of that happened. So big ups to his staff for that. He's doing a lot of volunteer work. He didn't commit a crime. He's doing a lot of volunteer work as if he has a sentence. Okay, cool. You know, it is what it is. All right. To something a little more intentional. Caitlyn Jenner. This has always been really, really odd to me. Caitlyn Jenner. I remember the first time I heard her talk about Donald Trump, and it seemed as if there was some level of fascination with the leadership of Donald Trump. Caitlyn Jenner is now running for governor of California and had a troubling back and forth with host on the show The View. All right, and this was during an interview. Here's some of that, and I go to you, Woz, for reaction.
A lot of Republicans in this country believe that Donald Trump won the election and not Joe Biden. Are you one of those people, one of those Republicans?
I'm not going to get into that. That election is over with. I think Donald Trump did do some good things, and what I liked about Donald Trump is he was a disruptor.
But did he win the election?
But he was a disruptor when he was president. I want to do the same thing. I want to go in and be a thoughtful disruptor in Sacramento. We need to change the system, and I want to change that system for the positive. I'm in it for the people.
I have to cut you off. I have to cut you off.
Whoopi Goldberg to the rescue. So let me tell you why this question is important, especially for those running for public office. Number one, it establishes if you actually believe in democracy. Number one, because if you believe in democracy, you actually can tell the truth about a process that was fair and protected. That was the democracy as we know it in the presidential election. You've had Republicans. Lieutenant Governor of the state of Georgia, he came out, he's a Republican. He said, hey, there was no massive voter fraud. The election was secure. He didn't care that Trumpites would come after him. I need Caitlyn Jenner to be okay with being an independent voice. And the second thing it does, when you answer questions like this, it tells us if you are willing or unwilling to stand up to the Trump chaos. If you're not able to have an independent bone in your body and give a logical analysis, assessment, and conclusion of Donald J. Trump, we have no expectation that if you get elected to higher office, that Trump will not be able to control you. That's why it's important to answer that question. Woz, what are your thoughts about that?
You know, my instinct is to dismiss this as clownish behavior from a buffoon, but you know, my memory is long enough that I remember 2015 when I did the same thing of a certain New York City real estate mogul, so I won't do that here. However, look, let's follow the money, Rashad, as you said earlier. McConnell, the Heritage Foundation, the Kochs, they're like, we're not gonna traffic in that. We're gonna restrict the right to vote, so that when the next one comes, we can beat these fools in court. Let's do it the right way. As soon as it happened, McConnell came out and said, no, the results are what they are. You guys, yeah, we're down with stealing elections, but you guys gotta do it the proper way, through the courts. That's how we do it. Real serious people steal elections via the court, and you see them sort of sodding the ground, laying the groundwork for that to happen in the future. This stuff that Caitlyn Jenner's doing is just clown work. I can't take it seriously.
Here's another video from Caitlyn Jenner.
You're saying you're an outsider, and I understand that, but you're also someone that doesn't have any political experience, and I think that is the criticism that you're getting. But you've said that you'll make up for your lack of political experience by surrounding yourself with really great people. That's a direct quote. But it's been reported that your campaign has so far been assisted by Brad Parscale, the former President Trump's controversial ex-campaign manager, as well as Caroline Wren, a GOP fundraiser who, according to ProPublica, helped organize the rally that led to the attack on the Capitol, as people that you're surrounding yourself with to advise you. So what exactly do you mean by surrounding yourself with really great people?
This is just so effed up on so many levels. It just really is. We only got a minute left. Waz, I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, I think people just need to pay attention to, one, you gotta pay attention to what the power structure within the party is doing. But two, you need to pay attention to what the animating force of the Republican Party is and what the base thinks and how they feel and how they move. Because let's face it, the tail does wag the dog now.
Yeah.
And you know, how the base feels does have influence all the way at the top to the power structure of the party. So we need to pay attention to it. But at the same time, I'm not gonna lie, I'm drawn to really be dismissive of Caitlyn Jenner in this entire operation.
Yeah, well, it's Friday, Waz. I had to bring it up. My friend, good to have you on Indisputable. I appreciate all you do and all you bring to the conversation through your various broadcasts as well as your written content. Man, it is a pleasure and honor to have you on the show. Tell people how they can follow you on social media.
Thank you as always for having me, first of all. And yeah, you can find me BIGWOS on every single social media platform. Check out my work at The Ringer. Subscribe to Woke Bros with me and Nando Vila, who's also a contributor to TYT. As always, an honor to be here with you, brother.
Same here, brother. Thank you, man. I appreciate you. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, I got the bullpen coming up on the other side. Michael Oristian will debate me, congressional candidate, Republican in California. We're going to talk about some things he said lately. Indisputable.
No, it's about more than just making glasses. We're talking about the right to see. Did you know that almost 1 billion people worldwide lack the access to vision correction like glasses? Billion with a B. Wow, that's 15% of the world. This is a real problem. Warby Parker thinks so too. That's why for every pair of glasses sold, they give a pair away to someone in need. Over 5 million pairs and counting so far. Yeah, that's great and all, but there's still a corporation. Is this just another PR distraction for questionable environmental practices? Climate change is what we still need to focus on. That's a great point, but actually Warby Parker is the only carbon neutral eyewear brand in the world. I really think you're burying the lead here. Oh, really? And what is that? These glasses look amazing. You do look really good. Stop. You look good. I don't think it can be overstated. Turn to the left. Other companies, they make me feel fear.
What is happening here? You guys, we gotta go to break.
Hi, I'm John, and I'm new to TikTok, but about 3 years ago, I started my daily political news show, The Damage Report, because I noticed this trend where every morning I was waking up to this tsunami of news that was just generally dreadful and horrifying and shocking, and I thought that if I could spend my time helping people to navigate this, serving as a bit of a life raft, pointing out which news is important and why, there are worse ways to spend your day. We're not an average news show, and we don't want our TikTok presence to be average either, so feel free to let us know what you'd like us to do on the platform, and maybe give us a follow at The Damage Report.
All right, Amazon Prime members, here's how you can subscribe for free on Twitch. Start by linking your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account, and then click that little subscribe or resubscribe button below the stream on Twitch. Scroll down and select the subscribe free with Prime button, and then you're finished. Close out immediately and share your little subscription alert with the chat. Send a cute message along with it, and bathe in the sweet, twitchy, Bezos-funded love. Hashtag Bezos Bucks.
Hey everyone, Matteo Scarapore here, author of Black Buck, which is Shop TYT's first fiction book ever. I'm honored. So, Black Buck is about a young man named Darren who's living in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. He lives with his mom, he has his girlfriend, he has his best friend, he has his neighborhood, and his neighborhood has him. Darren's also working at a Starbucks in Midtown Manhattan. And one day, this man, who's real suave and good looking, comes in and asks Darren to give him his regular. But for some reason, Darren says no. This man named Rhett Daniels, who's the CEO of a startup called Someone, located on the 36th floor of the same building, is impressed. And he invites Darren upstairs, and then he extends an offer to join his elite sales team. Darren reluctantly joins, and he soon realizes that he's not the only black salesperson there. He's the only black person in the entire company. So he goes through hell and back in order to make it to the top. And once there, he has status, money, power, but he says, you know what? I don't like being the token black guy. So he hatches a plan to help other people of color infiltrate America's tech startup sales teams, redefining what it means to be a minority in the workplace. This book definitely, if you couldn't tell, touches on many things that are relevant to this moment that we're all living in right now. But it's also connected to the many moments in history that have come before today. I hope that you read it. I hope that you enjoy it. And if you want to order a copy, go to shoptyt.com. Thank you, be well, and happy 2021.
All right, welcome back. Don't forget that if you're watching me on the TDR YouTube stream, make sure to jump off. No disrespect to my big homie John, but John won't allow us to keep using his TDR page forever, all right? So make sure you like the page, subscribe to the page on YouTube. On YouTube, Indisputable TYT, Indisputable TYT, subscribe there. It's quick, it's fast, it's easy. Do it now. Okay, hit the bell to make sure you are alerted when we are live. Let me read some viewer comments. Okay, Twitch members, Cray Souffle says, yes, Dr. Richey, establishment Dems and Repubs share the same neoliberal or conservative ideas. Progressives don't and want to change things to better the lives of regular people. Super Chat, YouTube, John Mad Dog Hall says, why should the US government fund human animal mutant research when Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos can fund it better? Actually, Gates and Bezos don't have to fund it because they already have Alex Jones. Mind-blowing. Neotub Ninja says, Toobin got caught with his member at full stack. Oh, no, I can't. Okay, all right. That just may be too much, Neo. It's funny as hell, though. Keita Boot Forever says, I'm listening at work. Oh, I read you, and thank you. Happy birthday again, by the way, Keita. Twitch, Mama Misa, I hope I'm saying that right because I love your comment. Like I said yesterday, catch that political commentary, Holy Ghost. Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the bullpen. In the bullpen, a man who obviously does not know his own boundaries, he has decided to step in the ring with me, Mr. Michael Oristian, former congressional candidate, California 53rd Congressional District. He lost the primary election on March 3rd, 2020, but active in the San Diego Republican Party. And he calls himself a champion of ideas over identity. Michael, thank you for being on Indisputable.
All right, thanks for having me, Doctor.
Man, listen, let's get right into it. Do you believe Donald J. Trump will run for re-election?
Why not?
Okay. And do you think he lost the election, or did some mythical creature steal it from him?
I think it's indisputable that the election was a fraud.
The entire election was a fraud?
That's correct.
So let me ask you this, if the entire election was a fraud, because you voted, correct?
That's right.
When you voted in the presidential election, for the general election, were there other people on the ballot as well?
Yeah, I mean, actually, that's a strong indicator of the fraud, right? Is that you have such disparity between the lead Democratic senatorial candidate in all these different states where you had a huge bounce for Biden in the wee hours of November 4th. So I think that actually points to a lot of the fraud.
So let me get this right. You're saying that not only did voter fraud happen as it relates to President Donald Trump, but the Republicans down ballot across the country, they experienced the same voter fraud as well.
No, actually, you saw the Republicans kept the House in massive numbers. So
okay, so let me get this right. The other Republicans did not experience voter fraud, but President Trump.
No, you've had an unprecedented number of presidential only ballots. That just doesn't happen.
In the general, wait a minute, sir. In the general election, when you vote for president, you just said you've had a retention and even some increases on your down ballot. You even had that statewide. Throughout many states, they had some Republican increases, right? But some of those states still went for either Biden or went for a Democratic senator. Georgia's one of them, elected 2 Democratic senators. Seat got taken from 2 incumbents. Are you saying either A, only voter fraud happened to Trump, or B, voter fraud happened to everybody that was on the ballot?
I'm saying, well, those 2 things are not mutually exclusive. If you have a bunch of ballots come in the middle of the night that are fraudulent, and they only have the presidential election for Biden, that's why you're seeing the disparity between Trump and his lead, senatorial Republican option, and Biden and his lead senatorial option. So that's a key indicator, and I'm talking order of magnitude difference.
All right, let me ask you this question. Do you know how many lawsuits were filed from the Trump campaign for election irregularities, and how many were filed by Trump surrogates, various campaign companies?
Let me ask you the return question. Do you know how many of those trials were heard?
Yeah, well, over 60 were filed.
That's right.
Yeah, so over 60 were filed.
Rejected on no standing, so the trial wasn't heard.
So think about this. I want you to consider something, Michael, because I think you're a smart guy based on your educational profile. You had over 60 lawsuits filed, right? You even had the opportunity of the Supreme Court, which is squarely conservative, many of them now appointed by Donald J. Trump himself. You had all of these judges, some of these judges were also outside of the Supreme Court, appointed by Donald Trump as well, and approved by a Republican Senate. You mean to tell me that all of these Republican judges were in on the conspiracy to steal the election from Donald Trump, even those that he appointed to the bench?
Donald Trump did not appoint John Roberts. He's the one who decides what cases get heard.
Okay, wait a minute. First of all, Michael, have you dismissed logic and common sense, brother? Because I feel like, let me tell you why I say that. Out of all the cases that were actually filed in federal court, you had a significant number of those cases filed in front of federal judges who were appointed by Donald Trump. The question is simple. Did those judges engage in a cover-up as well in order to steal the election from Donald Trump?
Well, the number of courts that didn't hear the case, right? You're trying to act like it went to the courts, therefore it went through the courts and it was adjudicated in the proper way. I'm telling you that you're kind of summarily dismissing the fact that the case didn't even make it into the court. Look, it's indisputable. The information's coming out, and so I everybody I know. Do
you believe Trump is going to be reinstated?
Everybody I know is eating crow over everything I was saying a year ago, and you will be a year ago from.
Oh, that's a damn lie. Come on, Michael. Michael, you also said that you were going to win your congressional campaign, and you fell horribly short. So your word means very little here as far as proclamations that you're making.
Where did I say I was going to win my congressional campaign in a D+16 district? Show me where I said that.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Show me where I said that.
Okay, Michael, did you run?
Don't tell me things I didn't say.
Michael, did you run to lose?
No, I ran because I'm able to articulate the conservative values.
Let's talk about one of those values then. All right, Michael, let's talk about one of those values. This is a really interesting conversation. Do you believe that January 6th was a hoax?
Yes, 100%.
You tweeted something, but let me just remind people of what you tweeted. You tweeted on January 8th that January 6th was a hoax. That was your exact quote.
Yeah.
You also retweeted Marjorie Taylor Greene that said January 6th defendants are being mistreated in jail while awaiting trial.
That's right.
Being held in solitary confinement is cruel mental abuse and is a violation of these defendants' rights. So when you say it was a hoax, explain that.
I'm saying that it was a setup. There's clear indicators that the Capitol Police brought people in, and many of these people had brand new. Hey, look, you know what? I challenge you. Go watch Jaden X. Go watch John Sullivan's entire unedited video of January 6th and get back to me.
No.
Yes.
What you're saying is silly as hell. So you're saying that police officers coordinated the Capitol insurrection. That's what you're saying. Cops did.
It's not insurrection. You can't have an unarmed insurrection.
It was a terrorist attack. You can have an unarmed terrorist attack.
You can say whatever you want, but that's
but you can't have an unarmed terrorist attack. You can't. We prosecuted people who were not armed but committed acts of terror.
Yeah, box cutters, 9/11. Yeah.
So number one, you're wrong with the assessment about weapons. There were weapons recovered, as well as makeshift bombs. They also took flagpoles and made them weapons. So weapons were there, and people weaponized other items during that insurrection. So if the prerequisite to the definition of insurrection is to have a weapon, weapons were there, and weapons were found, and weapons have been lost.
Why don't you walk through? Why don't you put, for your viewers, put up the top 25 people who are the most, Jake Angeli, John Sullivan, go through everybody in there and go look at their backgrounds. These are people who were placed with brand new Trump gear in there. I'm telling you, 100%.
Oh man, let me say this, man. Michael, hold on, brother.
We'll get to the bottom of it. That was one place where I differed from the Republicans in saying we don't need a commission on January 6th, because we do need a commission on January 6th.
Okay, all right. So that almost makes common sense what you just said. So I agree with you on that. I agree with you that we do need a commission to investigate what happened January 6th.
Yep.
I completely think you're loony when you say things like Capitol Police brought in these insurrectionists. I think that's ridiculous. But let me ask you, man, do you really believe that the folks who stormed the Capitol were not, in fact, Trump supporters?
I think some legitimate patriots got caught up in the fervor of, hey, let's go into the Capitol. But I think it was fundamentally.
Explain to me what that means, legitimate patriots who are committing crimes.
No, I mean, look, going to a part of the Smithsonian that's cordoned off.
That's not what they did.
It's trespassing.
That's not what they did, brother. They didn't just go to a part of the Smithsonian that was roped off.
So focused on January 6th, why don't you tell me who the Capitol Police officer was who shot supposedly Ashley Babbitt?
My man, you know why I'm focused on January 6th?
A lot of things.
Michael, you know why? Do you know why I'm focused on January 6th? Because it was your ass that put it on Twitter. That's why you put it on Twitter and you said it was a hoax. But you actually have people that have been injured and are dead. Michael, think about this.
Question about civil liberties. Do you think that Amazon should have given the phone records through pinpoint of every single person who traveled from their home state to the Capitol that weekend, whether they were anywhere near the Capitol or not? And some of those people are being canceled and threatened from their jobs. Do you think that is the American civil?
This is unbelievable. You know, let me say this, Michael, and I just got to be honest, man.
Come on,
Michael, listen to me, brother. This has been a complete waste of my time. Having you on my show has been a complete waste of my time.
That's weird. I appreciate you said it was a really interesting conversation.
You're arguing from a point like I have never seen the Kool-Aid so deep in an individual before. Never.
Out your mind, dude.
You're to the right of the most extremist person I've ever met in my life.
Who's the most extremist person you ever met in your life?
I've met Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Okay.
Yeah, I've met her.
Yeah, I think she's doing a pretty good job.
I know you do. Of course you do.
Yeah. All right. Well, you can't dismiss me for being somebody who's championing these guys. Come on.
Yeah. Well, I dismiss the ideas that you present as legitimate. That's all I dismiss, brother.
Okay. Well, I'm curious to where your line in the sand on finding the truth on January 6th is.
Well, here's where my line in the sand is.
Beautiful.
Let's debate that.
I'm pretty sure that you're going to be eating crow when all of these audits, starting in Arizona, it's coming to your state. I believe you're in Georgia. It's coming to your state. It's going to Pennsylvania.
Let me ask you this on a more.
These guys are all going down
on a more common sense level. Okay, that's your opinion. Let me ask you this. Here's the one part we agree with. There should be an exhaustive investigation into what happened on January 6th. And you can't argue that the way it was structured would not have been bipartisan. You got 10 Democrats, you got 5 Democrats, 5 Republicans appointed to a 10-person committee. I think that's as bipartisan as it gets. But Republicans are the ones who said no. The party that you registered under when you ran for Congress, that party said, we do not want to look into what happened on January 6th. But they looked into Benghazi, they looked into the 9/11 Commission, they've looked into Hillary Clinton's emails, but they refused to look into what happened on January 6th. Why?
Because we have a lot of rhinos inside the Republican Party who the real battle right now is between the common man and the establishment. The reason why you saw the fervor for Bernie Sanders is because he's outside. Even though he has got progressive ideas, he's outside the establishment. In the Republican Party, we have people like, I don't know, Kemp. I don't know who paid off Kemp.
Well, who paid off McConnell? Because McConnell is the one who killed our ability to investigate January 6th. Let me ask you this. You said you got a lot of rhinos, Republican in name only. Which Republican or what Republicans supported investigating January 6th through this commission?
Yeah, that's all available to you. The key indicator are the people who quickly capitulated after the election on November 3rd. Quickly capitulated, said, okay, let's move on.
All
That's
right.
A very strong indicator. The ones that are still fighting, I haven't.
But I'm asking you the question of which Republicans do you support that supported the January 6th commission to investigate what happened on January 6th? Real simple question, Michael.
No, I'm just saying in spirit. I'm not going through and saying you can look that up. They're putting themselves on the record.
Which ones?
Look that up. I'm not here to say okay.
Which ones are saying we should create the commission? Which ones?
Yeah, that's public. You're here for my opinion. That's publicly available facts, information.
All right. It seems like if that was so important to you, you would know the Republicans that support your agenda to investigate January 6th.
But Michael, the commission, look, January 6th was an outcropping of the fact that Mike Pence didn't do his job. His job, the reason why we have a constitutional crisis is because the state legislators were bullied into making changes. And now we're complaining about voting rights when we have 17 days of early voting in all these states. It's nonsense. There's no limited access to voting, and this was a bully play.
Let me give you some facts about voting. Let me give you some facts about the actual bill itself. So let's go to Senate Bill 202, which is your Georgia restrictive voting bill. Here's what it does. Here's the restriction it creates.
Is it restrictive as New York's? Who are the people? Who are the big corporations who have pulled out of New York?
Okay, so I'm talking about Senate Bill 202. Michael, I'm talking about Senate Bill 202. And let me explain to you and everyone who's watching where the restrictions came in, since you think there were no restrictions in these state bills. Not only did it make it an actual crime to hand someone food or water without them campaigning whatsoever, it made it a misdemeanor offense, punishable by 1 year in jail. You as a person that's damn near libertarian, if not all the way libertarian, should appreciate the fact that we don't need extra laws on the book to regulate something that's already regulated. It is already illegal to electioneer on the precinct ground. That's already against the law. You don't need to also make it against the law to not be involved in electioneering and to hand somebody water. So I think you and I would agree that should not have been part of Senate Bill 202. Beyond that, another restriction that it created is it de facto eliminated Sunday voting. Souls to the polls, utilized primarily by black churches on Sunday. It was a ministry and civil engagement operation. But the Senate bill said you got to do one or the other, either Saturday or Sunday, rather than allowing Saturday and Sunday to be decided by each county. Also, it takes away the ability of the local Board of Elections director to oversee campaigns if the state legislature decides to appoint their own superintendent. I thought Republicans were for localized government and less government intrusion. However, that bill specifically creates government intrusion, takes away local control from the 159 counties in Georgia under Senate Bill 202. Those things have got to disturb you as a libertarian-like individual.
You know what disturbs me? HR1 and CTCL and Zuckerberg's play. Where do you stand on those? Because I want to find common ground.
HR1, I'm for it 100%. I think it's necessary to pass. What element of HR1 are you against?
You want the mail-in ballot fiasco we had so that we can further undermine our elections?
How many people, what was the percentage of election fraud in the mail-in balloting system?
Well, that would require an actual examination of the fraud, wouldn't it?
That would require you actually looking at a fact or two. You are correct.
All right, and how do you feel about Zuckerberg spending 400 million on ballot drop boxes in Pennsylvania? You like that?
Yeah, I'm fine. As long as the drop boxes are certified by that county and that local government is able to secure those votes, those are American citizens voting and utilizing the convenience of a location in order to express their constitutional right in democracy. I'm good with it.
So you're anti-voter ID too, I take it.
Yeah, you know why I'm anti-voter ID? Fundamentally, you know why?
Why?
You ever ask somebody why? Do you believe voting is a right, Michael?
Yeah.
You do believe it's a right?
Yeah.
Explain this to me. In the United States, in most states, you can legally purchase a gun from a private owner without showing your ID.
They've changed that, not here.
Jess, I got you, but in most states, let me provide the context. Because we have deemed having a firearm is in fact a right. And you don't have to show the ID in order to purchase from a private gun seller. Also,
hey doctor, you ever gone bowling?
Oh, wait a minute, Michael, don't do that, brother.
You ever gone bowling?
Michael.
You ever gone bowling?
Michael, are you gonna let me finish?
You get the $4 rental of bowling shoes, you gotta have an ID. You leave the ID at the front.
Are you finished?
You need an ID.
Okay.
I'm
gonna go ahead, cut his microphone. I'm gonna go ahead and make my point because there are some people that actually care about the truth. Cut his mic.
Requiring people not have ID.
Okay, here's the reality. The reality is this. Every right that you have, your freedom of speech, your right to assemble, all of these rights do not require you to utilize your ID in order to exercise it. None of the rights require that. All of a sudden, you must present your ID in order to exercise your right to vote, when you do not need your ID to exercise any other right. The irony behind that is this: 20 years ago, nobody can hear you, brother, I cut your mic. 20 years ago, nobody in the United States of America had to produce an ID in order to exercise their right to vote. Nobody. It was a trick launched by the Republican Party in order to start massaging who voted, to start limiting who engaged in that process. All right, Michael, are you there? We can bring you back now. All right, let's unmute Michael. Let's unmute Michael. Michael, unmute yourself, brother. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
You muted me. I got to unmute myself.
Yeah, so I don't know why it works like that, man. But once again, go ahead. I'll let you get the final word. The show is about over.
All right. Well, look, the reason for having to show an ID is because the system gets abused if you don't. The system gets abused. One person, one vote. One person, one vote. It's fair. You need an ID for anything else. There's simply no logical argument.
You don't need an ID for every other right, brother. Quite the contrary. And remember, there's no statistical significance of voter fraud in order to warrant the constitutional intrusion of telling me I must present an ID in order to exercise my constitutional right. I appreciate you.
During the 2016 election, I had 4 Uber drivers who told me they were voting here in California, and then they were driving in Nevada to vote there.
Hey, man.
You know why that's possible?
Yeah.
Because you don't have to show an ID, and you don't have to show where you live. So I'm telling you, you're peddling nonsense if you're telling me that.
Michael, I cannot believe you would say anybody on this planet is peddling nonsense, sir. Come on, man.
There you go. You want my perspective? You got it.
Yeah, I damn sure did. We all got your perspective, brother. And I appreciate you for at least standing up for what you believe in, even if it is bat-ish crazy. I appreciate you being on Indisputable. Thank you, man.
Talk to you next year.
Okay.
I'll look forward to the
okay, yeah. Michael says next year we're gonna all be just to everyone watching Indisputable, I am sorry. I really am. All right. Okay, listen, we got a lot happening next week. I got the big homie Killer Mike on with me next week. We got a lot of surprise guests. Here are the things I want you to know. Be good to yourself. Be good to each other. Be good to the planet. And remember, the truth is always indisputable.